The front doors of Willow Creek Police Station burst open, slamming so hard they cracked against the walls. Rain pounded the pavement outside, thunder rolling like distant cannon fire. And in the doorway stood a dog, soaked, trembling, and covered in blood. Shadow was a German shepherd. Broad-shouldered and scarred, he could barely hold himself upright. But he wasn't alone. Strapped to his back with a torn school backpack was a little girl, pale, unconscious, her arms limp like wet cloth. Her face was smeared with dirt, her knees scraped raw. Her name was Lila Grant. She had been missing for 4 days. Officers froze for one breathless moment. Nobody moved. Then Sergeant Hayes muttered, "That's her. That's the Grant girl." As they rushed forward, the dog growled, low and weak, but warning all the same. Even on the brink of collapse, he refused to let anyone near her, not until he knew she was safe. "Where the hell did he come from?" a young officer whispered, crouching beside him. Shadow didn't answer. He didn't need to. His job wasn't to explain. His job was to bring her back. As paramedics worked on Lila, Shadow's eyes never left her face. He shivered, ribs showing beneath his matted fur, his breaths shallow. When one of the medics reached for her hand, he growled again, soft but clear. He had carried her out of the dark, through the storm, through the fear. But how did he know where to find her? That question hung in the air, unanswered, as they lifted Lila onto a stretcher. And Shadow? He slumped to the floor beside her, as if only now allowing himself to rest. The room remained silent, save for the soft beeping of monitors and the faint thump of a tail against linoleum, before the headlines, before the storm, before the blood. There was just a little girl quietly fading from the center of her own home. Lila Grant was 9 years old, a bright, curious child with big questions and small hands always reaching for someone too busy to notice. Her father, Lucas Grant, ran one of the state's most successful food brands. Her mother, Emily, a food scientist, spent more time in labs and meetings than in bedtime stories. They weren't bad people, just busy, too busy. Lila never complained, she just stopped talking. She spent more and more time in her room. Her drawings grew darker, lonelier, sketches of a girl floating alone in empty playgrounds. Lucas noticed eventually on a quiet Saturday. Guilt stirred more than instinct. "Let's go visit the animal shelter," he suggested. "I don't want a puppy," Lila murmured, as they walked past wagging tails and eager eyes. And then she saw him. Shadow was older than the others, a retired police dog, wounded in the line of duty. A small scar ran near one eye. He looked tired, like her. She knelt in front of his kennel. "This one," she whispered. "His eyes are sad, like mine." Lucas hesitated. "He's been through a lot." "So have I." They brought Shadow home that evening. Within weeks, something changed. Lila laughed again. She spoke more. She drew pictures of a girl and a dog adventuring together through forests and space. Shadow followed her everywhere. He waited by the door when she left for school and curled beside her bed at night. He listened to her secrets, never interrupted. And slowly, she came back to life. No one realized just how deep their bond had grown. Until the day she disappeared, it was supposed to be a normal Tuesday. Lucas kissed Lila's forehead before she stepped out of the car. 3 o'clock, sweetheart," he said. "I'll be right here." Shadow sat quietly in the back seat, his eyes never leaving her as she vanished through the school gates. By 3:15, the parking lot was nearly empty. No Lila. Lucas checked the time again. Still nothing. He walked inside, trying to stay calm. "Hi, I'm here to pick up my daughter, Lila Grant." The receptionist looked up, confused. She was already picked up, said it was a family emergency. Lucas froze. By who? The silence that followed was deafening. That evening, the phone rang. A voice, cold, mechanical, filtered through the receiver. "We have your daughter. If you want her alive, bring $1 million. No police, no games. You'll get instructions tomorrow." Of course, they wanted to call the police. But the threat echoed in Lucas's mind. No police or she dies. "What if they're watching?" he whispered. "What if this is a test?" Emily's voice cracked. "So what do? We can't risk it." Lucas didn't sleep. didn't eat. He just sat at the edge of the bed, phone in hand, his knuckles white with fear. "I wasn't there," he whispered. "I wasn't there to protect her." Shadow began to pace. He sniffed Lia's shoes, her backpack. He whined, barked, nudged Lucas toward the hallway. "Not now, Shadow," Lucas snapped. He locked the dog in the laundry room. Shadow howled, a deep, urgent cry, but no one listened. The storm hit just after midnight. Rain battered the windows, thunder cracked like rifle fire. But inside, the most terrifying sound wasn't the storm. It was the breaking of something deeper. The laundry room door slammed open. Shadow had escaped. The latch snapped. The leash shredded. He had clawed and pushed until he burst into the storm, trembling, soaked, but determined, driven by something more powerful than instinct. A promise. He ran, through trees, over fences, across highways. He didn't stop. Then he found it. A trace of her scent, a strand of hair, footprints, a faint hum of a generator. Shadow crouched, crawling through the underbrush. Then he saw her. Lila, curled in a corner of a concrete cell, shivering, lips pale. A man stood nearby, armed. Shadow didn't hesitate. He lunged, teeth locked on flesh. The guard screamed, stumbled. "Shadow?" Lila gasped. "Run," his eyes said. She grabbed the keys from the guard's belt. The emergency exit creaked open. She bolted into the night. Shadow followed, limping, bleeding. They ran through the woods, branches clawing at them. Flashlights appeared behind them. A dark figure stepped into their path, gun raised. Shadow pivoted, leapt into the underbrush. Another man emerged, but Shadow lunged again, snarling, taking him down. Lila climbed onto Shadow's back. He ran, faster, harder, until finally through the trees they saw it. A porch light. The woman who opened the door gasped, "Oh my God, come in." Her name was Anna, the town veterinarian. She dropped to her knees beside Lila, wrapping her in blankets, wiping blood from Shadow's side. "You're safe now," she whispered. But safety is fragile. 15 minutes later, the front door creaked again. A man stepped in, broad-shouldered, muddy boots, hood pulled low. It was Eric, Anna's husband. He hadn't just been a farmer. He was a lookout for the kidnappers. Shadow knew. Eric froze. "We have to take her back," he said. "They'll come after us if we don't." Shadow growled, stepping between Eric and the girl. Anna gasped. "Eric, don't!" Eric lunged. Shadow bit, just enough to warn him. "She's a child!" Anna cried. "He saved her!" Eric paused. Conflict warred in his eyes. Finally, he stepped back. "I didn't see anything," he said. Shadow collapsed beside Lila, bleeding, exhausted, but safe. The storm raged on, but for them it was finally over. Shadow nudged her gently. She understood. Wrapped in the remains of Anna's blanket, she climbed onto his back. Together they vanished into the dark woods, mud sucking at Shadow's paws, branches whipping Lila's skin. She didn't cry. She just held on. Every shadow could be danger, but she wasn't alone. She had him, Shadow, the dog who never gave up, the dog who brought her home. But they moved, quiet, focused, shadow-led. Head low, ears twitching, Shadow crept forward through the night. Lila followed barefoot, trembling, but never complaining. And then, finally, light in the distance, a flickering red and blue halo. A small county road, a patrol car parked, engine idling. Shadow stumbled into view first. The officer, young, mid-20s, nearly dropped his coffee. His eyes widened. "Jesus!" Then he saw her. "Dispatch, I need paramedics. Now!" Shadow collapsed onto the wet pavement, Lila still clinging to his fur. They were safe. The hospital buzzed with quiet urgency. Lucas stood just outside the ER doors, soaked, shivering, a duffel bag full of ransom money at his feet. He hadn't slept in nearly 2 days. The call had come an hour ago. "She's alive. She's coming in now." Every second was a lifetime. Then he saw them. A gurney wheeled in, surrounded by EMTs. On it, Lila, pale but conscious, wrapped in blankets. Her eyes searched frantically until they found him. "Daddy!" He ran, tears already falling. "Lila!" He dropped to his knees as she reached for him, her arms wrapping around his neck, tight as she could manage. "I thought I lost you," he whispered, voice breaking. "I thought I had Shadow," she murmured, eyes fluttering. He never left me. Behind them, another gurney, shadow, bloodied, unmoving. A nurse called out, "Vitals!" Another shouted, "Get the vet team, now!" Lucas turned, breath caught in his chest. The dog who brought his daughter home was barely hanging on. The FBI wasn't called, but they came anyway. A red flag had been raised when a large cash withdrawal hit federal monitoring systems. The name, Lucas Grant. The purpose, ransom. It was enough to trigger protocol. By the time Lucas reached the hospital, agents were already moving. Shadow's arrival, with Lila, had set the town on fire. But for the FBI, it was just the beginning. They approached Lucas carefully. "You didn't call us," Agent Monroe said. "We understand why, but now we need your help." Lucas, still shaken, handed over the burner phone the kidnappers used. "I was going to do whatever they said," he confessed. "I just wanted my daughter back." Using the call logs, agents traced pings from nearby cell towers, each location narrowing the search radius. Then came the final clue: Shadow. The bloodied German shepherd had traces of a unique soil composition on his fur, clay-heavy, mineral-rich, specific to one region of the forest. A second canine unit, trained to track scent, followed Shadow's trail. It led deep into the woods, to a cluster of abandoned bunkers hidden by overgrowth. Inside, they found evidence: rope, duct tape, discarded food wrappers, Lila's torn school uniform. But the place was empty. They were gone. However, one of the wrappers had a partial fingerprint. Match confirmed Marcus Vale, a known associate of a man named Greg Fallon, businessman, philanthropist, and now prime suspect. Fallon had built a facade: youth centers, scholarships, charity work. But behind the polished smile, the truth was rotting. Agent Monroe turned to her team. "We're not just dealing with one kidnapping," she said. "This is bigger, organized, and we have our lead." What began as a single abduction unraveled into something far darker. With Lila safe and Shadow recovering, the FBI launched a full-scale investigation. The burner phone Lucas turned over became their first breadcrumb. Metadata from call logs pointed to disposable SIMs bought across state lines. Surveillance footage from gas stations and retail stores identified several suspects. Fingerprints on discarded packaging led back to Marcus Vale, a convicted felon tied to an underground network of short-term hires for high-risk criminal operations. Then, another name resurfaced: Greg Fallon. A wealthy man, hailed for his work with vulnerable youth. But in truth, Fallon had built a spiderweb of criminal activity, recruiting at-risk individuals through his programs, trafficking them for money and power. Shadow's trail, confirmed by soil samples and scent tracking, matched several drop sites, all near properties linked to Fallon. Undercover agents posed as donors, infiltrating one of Fallon's youth centers. Inside, they uncovered hidden rooms, coded files, and secret communications. Armed with undeniable evidence, the FBI launched coordinated raids in 3 states. Dozens arrested, including Fallon himself. The media erupted. The world saw a man finally unmasked. But for those closest to the case, it was justice, earned, not given. Weeks later, the storm had passed, but its shadows lingered. Lila returned to school, quieter now, more thoughtful, more aware. Shadow still limped, but each morning he nudged her awake, gentle, protective, his amber eyes calmer than ever. Together they carried unseen scars and an unbreakable bond. Lucas and Emily made a promise: never busy again. Dinner time became sacred, a moment to share, to listen, to heal. They never missed a night. They even started volunteering at the animal shelter where Shadow had been found. Under Luna's watchful eye, Lila prepared food packages, decorating the bags with her own drawings. Each one read, "Friend Forever." Anna and Eric participated quietly. Their names never made the papers. But every week Lila left a bouquet at Anna's doorstep, a silent thank you for saving her life. Meanwhile, the headlines had changed. Charity King behind bars. Dog leads to justice. Shadow, the hero, saves a child. One afternoon, Agent Monroe visited the Grant house. She brought a framed photo, Lila and Shadow, taken by the hospital photographer, two souls who refused to be broken. Lucas shook her hand, tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he said softly. "For believing." Monroe smiled. "Number, thank you for sharing him." That evening, storm clouds gathered again over the back porch. Lila stood holding Shadow's leash. Lucas stood beside her. A single thunderclap echoed across the valley. Shadow lifted his head, ears twitching. Lila whispered, "We're okay now." Lucas leaned down, hugging them both. "Because we're together." Lightning split the sky, bright, sudden. Shadow let out a soft bark. Lila giggled, and for the first time in a long time, she no longer felt forgotten. Because Shadow didn't just bring her home, he brought her family back. If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.